When I bet, I like getting something back, even if I lost. That's why we're excited to announce our new partnership with FANATICS Sportsbook, the only sportsbook that gives you fan cash when you bet, win or lose. Use fan cash on all NBA and other fan gear, bonus bets, collectibles, and more. It's the most rewarding place for fans to place their bets. Download FANATICS Sportsbook and let the fan cash flow. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents, call 800-327-5050. New York residents, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. I am still feeling pretty good. I know it's been almost 48 hours. We're recording this at 7:33 p.m. on Sunday night. But actually, wait, no, it's been more than that. It's been like 72 hours. Jeremy Cohen is with me. Jeremy, can you help me tell time? Has it been 72 hours?
I cannot. Oh, so what, since the game on Thursday? Yeah, sure. 72 hours. A little under that.
I gotta tell you, I've enjoyed the time off. I'm not gonna lie. This has been great to just get to sit in this and enjoy it and dwell in it. But we'll talk about that in a bit. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm resting up. If you are watching, you'll notice a different background. I don't own these. These paintings are not mine. So a funny story for you, John, is Tuesday, right? Game 5, Tuesday.
Yeah.
Really excited at the prospect of the Knicks closing out the series. And then for all of us, we get to not have to worry about a potential game 6. Less stress on our plate. Well, I don't need to spoil anything, but the Knicks lost game 5 and had to play a game 6. Now, what does that mean?
Saying what happened at the end of The Last of Us episode 2.
Spoilers. Now, what does that mean for those of us at home? Well, for many, it's just great. My Thursday night, I know I'm watching the Knicks. That's fine. Not for me. So I had to, on Wednesday, fly down to Miami because for work, we were working with a client that wanted to set a Guinness World Record with the most drones in the sky of a token currency at one point. And we broke the record. It was very exciting. But it would just so happen that this previously scheduled work event coincided with game 6. And I have not missed a playoff game since, I want to say, 2013. I missed the game that they lost to the Pacers at home, whether it was game 1 or 2 at MSG. So I missed game 1. And, I'm on the grid watching from my phone. Knicks are up by 15? Things are going great. Vibes are good. Everything's feeling trending in the right way. And then they start to lose that lead. It slips away. Second quarter happens. I'm like, great. I need more stress. And I'm still looking at my phone, but also I can't be on my phone because there's stuff to do on the grid. There are people that I need to focus on. I need to be with the client. And I watch our shows with the client just as hey, if things go great, I'm right here with you. If things go wrong or any messages I need to convey, also right here by your side. And so we get to about 9:30. It's when the drones need to launch up, and I'm with the client. They are watching at a nice bar, and it's an outdoor portion of the bar, and it's a walkway, and it's right near where the Heat play. It's very empty there. I don't know why, but it was incredibly silent from that arena. So the drones are up in the air. Everyone's doing oohs and ahs. They're very excited. I'm relieved, but I'm like, great, drones right there. Okay, what's the score in the Knicks game? They're up by 9. Great. Okay, nice play. All right, and I'm doing my job, but I'm like, the drones are doing their thing. It's out of my control. It's in God's hands now. So the least I can do is focus on the Knicks, and then they're winning, and then they're losing and riding the high. And then all of a sudden with Bernard, we're watching the game on my phone at the grid again. Clients happy. People are out of the way. And then Jalen Brunson hits the shot. And then we lose our minds. And then Beasley's Butterfingers leads to the ball going out of bounds. And we lose our minds again. And then the clock expires. And I just start running around screaming. So that was my Thursday night. So it's crazy that was only about 72 hours ago. And yet here we are.
A couple things, Jeremy. number one, congratulations on setting the world record for the largest drone representation of a token. Did I get that right?
I will look up what the exact
I saw you holding up the thing.
So it's the largest aerial display of a currency symbol formed by multi-rotor / drones. And it was given to our client, and we, the vendor, we helped make it happen. So we had our moment as well, which was nice. It's nice to see that type of thing.
If that must have felt like the client gets to keep the plaque or the thing, whatever it is.
Yes.
And you got to like have a moment with it and like take a picture with it. It must have felt like when the players and team win an NBA championship and they get to hold the trophy for like a minute, and then the coach gets to hold the trophy for a minute, and then it goes and lives in the owner's house or wherever the hell the owner wants to put it.
Here's the only difference.
What?
With this one, and I mean, it could still be applicable for the other ones, but for this, check still clears. So we're good. I will take the cash. Our company will take the cash. Not a problem.
Second, if Mikal Beasley does not try to strike a deal with Malik, I don't know how many times I'm going to get that wrong.
I just didn't know if you meant Mikal Bridges.
No, it's not the first time. It's like Amir Thompson, who had a great series, by the way.
He did.
I got to tell you.
Two places at once. Still playing tonight.
I know. He's in both places.
He goes back and forth,
Anyway, Malik Beasley, if he doesn't strike a deal with Butterfingers this summer, that's like it's right there for him.
That would be.
And I hear he may need some extra funds this summer. Number three, this is the important thing. So when you said that you were at a bar at one point, right? You went to like watch.
It was an outdoor bar. There's kind of a walkway, and on one side is the seating section outdoors, and the other side is an island bar where they're just TVs all around.
So was the game on those TVs?
Yes, it was on every other TV.
Okay, it was on every other TV. Okay, so how much do you remember? How much time was left in the game when you needed to leave that area to go back to wherever it was and then you needed to watch the game on your phone?
Now, it was a bit of a blur, so check me on this, but I believe the Knicks were up by like 8 or 9 at the end of the third quarter.
So it was the end of the third quarter. Okay.
It was they were reviewing a play. It was a Hardaway play.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they were doing quite well at the end of the third. And one of my colleagues even said, "What's happening to your Knicks?" And I said, "What are you talking about? They're winning." And he misread the score, and then they started losing not too long after that.
Yeah.
Maybe
he should have kept his mouth shut. So the reason I asked that is there was no thought on your part or Bernard's part to be like, hey, maybe we could stay here for like an extra 2 minutes because it was the whole quarter left and you needed to go do what you had to do.
It wasn't. I was the one passing along the score to him.
Okay.
And I had to walk the client from the site to the grid so that we could do the award ceremony. So I had to zip. I couldn't stay at the bar any longer.
Last question. Was there at any point in time, either before the evening commenced or even during, where you were like, I'm going to just shut the faucet off and I'm not going to pay attention. I'm not going to actively avoid score, knowing about the game, anything. And then I'll just want to get back to my hotel room. I'll like watch from this point forward or whatever. Yeah,
no, that never crossed my mind. Not at one moment. I'm really good at my job to be transparent when it comes to the client and managing them.
You are, I know that.
But I meant like, and even then I also had a split allegiance here, which was, this is a job in itself and this is a passion as well. So the best thing was putting earbuds in and just having the game and the phone on in my pocket, not even being able to watch it maybe, but just listening to Mike and Clyde talk me through what's happening. That was nice. So then I could at least try to multitask, and it didn't really work. Usually had to pop one or both AirPods out, but I tried. It looked convincing, and I was as professional as one could be on the grid. Usually I'm kind of a third nipple by that point. I've done the work. It's up to the crew to do the rest of it. I've managed it so far. It's a Jesus take the wheel situation. So anything that I could do, unless it's just talking to people who business development or the client, like I'm not really of significant use. But of course, the client was there. and other people who were influential were there. So I had to try to also answer questions for my team that they had without getting frustrated, which I did. I didn't get frustrated at my team or anyone for that matter, but it was kind of like, great, I'm going to look at the game. Hey, Jeremy, yeah, what's up? What's going on? How can I help you? Kind of thing. And that was my life for the night. So the idea of not having to do that, or at least not having to have to deal with a game 7 on top of that.
Man, I did not realize until just now how disappointed you must have been after game 5. I was very disappointed after game 5, but I was disappointed for different reasons. Because we haven't talked. Yeah, we haven't talked since before game 5. So like my disappointment in game 5, and I've kind of talked about this already, and it's a moot point at this juncture. But like, the notion that they could have ended like all the things that like went not wrong this season, but all of the misgivings people have had about the team and their whatever their ceiling is that they didn't reach and this and that. Like they could have dispensed with all that to a certain extent if they had just taken care of business in game 5, which a lot of people expected them to do, win in 5. That said, and I don't say this to like rub it in that you had to deal with what you had to deal with on Thursday night. I think in retrospect, especially since they have gotten now, which we established at the top of the show, 72 hour, or will have gotten 3 full days off. So it'll be what? It'll be like 90, I don't know, 92, 93 hours between the end of one game and the beginning of the other. I think I'm happy that it went to 6. I think I'm happy that it went to 6 because we got, and I don't know if you want to, I don't think we can rank the moment right now because it's so fresh. We don't know what's going to happen in the next round, which should shape like how that moment is perceived throughout Knicks history. But as of right now, it feels like we got one of the greatest moments in Knicks history out of that game 6. And even though it was a painful game 6, that was a microcosm of the season in so many ways. I think for me, it was worth the extra squeeze. So yeah,
I'm happy for you.
I'm sure you are.
It was a great game to watch. In my,
I disagree
pocket.
with that. It was 2 quarters. It was a great game to watch, and then 2 other quarters. It was one of the more painful, abysmal experiences I feel like I've had. But listen, that's been a lot of this Knicks season. A lot of really high highs, really enjoyable basketball games, interspersed with games that make you feel like you want to pull your hair out. Which is a good transition. As we've laid lots of groundwork here, let's revisit the Detroit series one last time before we move on to our big questions about Boston. Is there one thing that you will, other than the shot, is there one thing or one or two things that you will remember most about round 1 against the Pistons when you think, as both of our memories are shit, so this is an unfair question, but when you think back to this series in 5 years or whatever, or like in 5 days, what will you remember the most?
I think I will remember the most, or at least the thing I'll remember the most is probably the fact that I don't know if it's a compliment for Detroit or a criticism for New York, but just about how tough it was to close it out. Where you could look at this from the Detroit perspective of this is the beginning of the next step in our history, in our team's, in our franchise's success. This is a great series. We tripled our wins from the previous season. We pushed it to 6. You could have easily won that. I mean, I saw some tweet from a Detroit fan. I was like, okay, well, if we had Isaiah Stewart, it would have been Pistons in 5. It's like, okay, well, if we want to go that route, we could find the exact thing. Like maybe you could make an argument if the Knicks had a more creative, offensive-minded coach, they win in 4. Like we could do this all day. It doesn't matter. The Knicks won in 6 games. I was impressed by how Detroit stayed resilient. I thought they did they got away with a lot of calls, and I understand that the Knicks embellished on some of them. I wouldn't say that the Knicks are completely faultless here, but there was some pushing and shoving that I thought didn't get called, and the flopping, or so-called at times, certainly did. But to me, it was really just, it felt like it was a harder battle than it needed to be. And I don't say that to malign Detroit. I say that just to the Knicks of, I still don't know who or what this real Knicks team is. And perhaps what we saw is what this real Knicks team is. This whole season, I think that's part of what's been so frustrating as a fan is, yes, as we've talked about, 51 wins, excited for what's next. It's still 0-0 against the Celtics right now. I don't know what to make of this team. I don't know what the true identity is. And they're ramping it up in some ways and they're falling flat in others. And again, it's like, it shouldn't be relief, but it was relief. There was some jubilation, of course, but that was primarily just, oh, I'm so happy we don't have to do this for a 7th game, which is more in the relief category. And that's what I will remember. This series had incredible moments that proved superstar talent. And it was a team effort, but it really wasn't. It's nice to see Mikal Bridges really both literally with the tip-in rebound and figuratively rebound. And even still, there were times where you just felt like it was maddening. But it was a frustrating series. I'm glad that they won, of course, but I'm not going to look back at this as in fondness. I'm going to look back as this is like a war of attrition, and the Knicks just happened to have another superstar, and that was what won them games. Enough games to get out of the series and face Boston. So respect to Detroit, but this series is not going to hold a place near and dear to my heart, as exciting as some of those key Jalen Brunson moments and others may have been.
You said exactly everything I was going to say. To piggyback on that last point, I will always look back on the Cavs series with fond memories. I will always look back on the Sixers series with fond memories. I will even, in a weird way, look back on segments of the Pacers series, even though they lost that series, with fond memories, because in my mind, I could draw a bright line between the beginning of that series when they still had some energy and they were still whole, and even like Game 5. I'll always cherish Game 5, probably because I was in the building. I will not look back on this series with fond memories. I just won't. I'm going to remember it as a series defined by the inconsistencies that defined this Knicks team for the entire season. In that sense, maybe the elevator pitch for the series is it was just the perfect microcosm of the first 82 games. And I don't know what else there is to say about it other than that. Now, all that being said, I think how we remember the series eventually will absolutely be shaped by A, what the Knicks do the rest of this postseason, and B, what the Pistons do, and I guess to an extent what the Knicks do and how they are over the next several years. Like, I'm thinking back to like the NBA of the 80s, where it's like, well, actually the Pistons needed to get over the hump of the Celtics, and then the Bulls needed to get over the hump of the Pistons, and then the Knicks tried to get over the hump of the Bulls, and then so on. It's like, that's how things used to work. Like, are we going to look back at this series as like the first of several battles between the Knicks and Pistons, where the Pistons just kept getting better? Or even if the Pistons and Knicks don't play each other in future playoffs, just like the first time this version of the Pistons made it to the postseason, and it's going to be a run of however many straight years for them, and they're going to go on to bigger and better things. And then maybe we'll look back on the series more favorably, where we'll look at it and say, oh, that Pistons team that ended up going on and doing great things, they showed their mettle for the first time against the Knicks in that first round. And then if we want to put the shoe on the other foot, and this will maybe lead to our transition to the next point, like, I could see us looking at this series 180 degrees different 2 weeks from now, if the Knicks beat the Celtics in 7 versus if the Knicks get smoked in 5 games, or I guess worse, then the Pistons series will go from like either, oh man, that really toughened them up for the war that was to follow. Would they have been able to beat Boston if they hadn't gone through those trials and tribulations and been challenged in that way? And that series that forced them to, grapple with who they are and what they're about and finding their identity and all that shit, versus like, oh yeah, that was just putting off the inevitable. Like, what a waste of time. And yeah, I mean, I guess we'll find out soon enough, won't we?
That we will.
We will. All right. On that note, anything else you want to say about the Pistons series before we move on to our big questions about Boston?
I was really surprised at the at how well the Pistons rebounded the ball. Like just throughout the whole series, it felt like they dominated. Even if it didn't statistically feel that way, it felt.
I actually haven't even looked up this stat, so I'm going to look it up right now. Just for
sure. It just, there's something about it. It felt like Duran had a magnet in his hands and the ball would always go to him. And even if that's not accurate, it was a surprise because of how
it is accurate. Can I give credence to what you're saying?
Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Detroit, 32.5% offensive rebounding rate. That is fourth best in the postseason. Yep. Overall rebounding rate for the Pistons, 51.9%. That is fifth best in the postseason.
And I understand this is a sample size of 5 games, but
6,
excuse me.
Yep.
I already erased game 6 from my mind because I just needed them to have not lost game 5, but they did. So through 6 games, I mean, that's talented. And you would think as well, and this was the frustrating part too, where it's Knicks are getting out rebounded. Tibbs saying, we're not rebounding the ball. You have Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns there, 2 players that could help you potentially do that. Just there was something about it that felt like this should be the Knicks game. The Knicks in the past have been so good on the boards. And it's like, oh, that's what this feels like the other way around when you have your opponent missing shots, and that's great. And then they get other opportunities, second chances, and then they capitalize, whether it's getting to the line or finishing at the rim or kicking it out. That should be what the Knicks do. And it felt like the Knicks were losing games that are the identity, like the core identity that I think of this team generally, maybe not this year's squad, but like over the last 4 or 5 seasons, at least since Tibbs has been here, that to me has always felt like the calling card. And to see it with the shoe being on the other foot was, it was humbling to a degree, but it was more just frustrating because I was like, well, how do you not have a nose for the ball? You have so many good rebounders on this team.
Yeah.
And how is Jalen Duran continuing to bust your ass on this? It was a head scratcher for me.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I never thought to myself like, oh, this is what it must have felt like to have been a Cavs fan 2 years ago, because I don't think it was to that degree, and B, I don't think it was in the same way. I think it was just more like this team. It just, for me, it fell in the same category as what you said before. Like this team just does not play up to their own ability enough, and the lack of rebounding as well as they should have was another thing that fell into that category, or another category under that larger umbrella. I guess my other thing that I'll is a big thing for me from the Pistons series is my overarching thing for the Celtics series, so I'll save it. I'm just happy the series is over. I cannot express to you how little I wanted to do with a Game 7 in just any way, shape, or form. But we don't have to now because we got Boston.
Hey, John, quick break because our friends at Fanatics Sportsbook sent us $125 in fan cash, and they have a question for us. They want us to put it toward a throwback jersey for a Knick you most want to add to the current roster to help them beat the Celtics. Also, for a bonus bet with the fan cash remaining, which series games odds from a series not Knicks Celtics do you like the most? So that's the series and the number of games that you like. Let's start with the Knick you most want to add to this series in a throwback jersey.
I love Karl-Anthony Towns. I truly, truly do with all of my heart. However, I have spent more of my time this weekend thinking of all of the ways that the Celtics are going to be able to exploit his presence specifically at the center position, and how he may not be able to take advantage of what they're doing in terms of defending him. So I'm going to go with a big man that I hear had a decent stint with the Knicks when he won MVP back in 1970. I am going with the original captain, Willis Reed.
So I went I guess I didn't dream big enough. I went a little more recent, a little more practical with my pick. I'm going Dante DiVincenzo. As much as people think I would have gone Carmelo Anthony with this, he seemed to do really well when he played with his 2 Villanova brethren. I think we were robbed of a Villanova Voltron that we thought we were going to get this season because they traded for Mikal Bridges at the beginning of the summer. And if I could actually see what all 4 of them on the court at the same time looks like, I would have loved it. Plus, you know what this team needs to do against the Celtics? Take threes. That can't come up in the pod that you are doing with Jeremy at the moment. So I'll go Dante DiVincenzo, a Dante DiVincenzo throwback jersey, which is again about $80 at the Fanatics store at the moment. Now for series odds.
Yeah, let's look at OKC Denver. I'd like to see some of those because I think the Nuggets have figured some stuff out in the first round. Yeah, they got a little lucky with the Jokic miss and the Gordon put back, and who knows what happens if that doesn't occur the way it does. But I would be very surprised if this was a rollover by the Thunder. Maybe that is a little naive of me. Maybe I'm forgetting how historically dominant the Thunder were in the regular season. But given the action here, or given the juice on Nuggets and 7, I really like that I'm getting better than 10-1 odds. And then I would probably, to cover my bases, also take Thunder in 6. I don't see Jokic going down in 5 games or 4 games. So I would do Nuggets in 7, but then I would back it up with Thunder in 6.
So little behind the scenes, the day that it was like finalized that we were headed to Fanatics Sportsbook, I took a future on the Clippers to win the West at plus 1,600, which then got lit on fire this Saturday night. And I followed up about halftime of that game against the Clippers. I took Nuggets plus 1,700 to win the West. So you might want to look at these odds if you're me and you have a future on the Nuggets, and say the best case scenario for them is either Nuggets in 7 or Nuggets in 6 for them to win the series. And it's plus 1,100, plus 1,200. Like John said, if you think they figured something out, this is very good value to get Jokic to either clinch at home in 6 or to win in 7 games. The other side of this, and you alluded to it, the Thunder have won 68 games. They're 72-14. And you're getting almost 5-1 for them to win in 6 games.
I couldn't believe that's one that seems ripe to jump all over.
Yeah, plus 475 seems like a good pick. Thank you, Fanatics Sportsbook. Earn up to 10% back on your bonus bets, win or lose. Use fan cash on team gear on fanatics.com. Bonus bets or profit boosts in the Fanatics Sportsbook app. Stay tuned for exclusive offers all playoffs long.
So let's talk about the Celtics. Before we do, I'll ask you, did you see ESPN's experts picks for the series?
I did.
Yeah. Were you surprised at all?
I was not. They had 11 analysts give their predictions, and the Knicks received the same amount of votes of winning the series as they have wins against the Celtics, the Thunder, the Cavs, the Warriors,
Lakers,
and I guess Lakers, but the Lakers are already eliminated, so what difference does it make? But it's those 4 teams combined. So I get it.
I get it too. I actually I was a tad surprised nobody picked Celtics in 4. I'm like, there were 11 people. I thought maybe one of them would pick a sweep, but I think generally speaking around the NBA, people have a respect for this Knicks team has talent. They do have toughness. They do have Jalen Brunson. I don't think most media think Tom Thibodeau is a bad coach, that he's going to get railroaded here by Joe Mazzulla. And I was pleasantly surprised to see a couple of Knicks in 7 picks. I think there were 2 or 3. So I was oh, okay.
Celtics in 7.
Celtics in 7. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. Celtics in 7. I was okay, that's some votes of confidence that they're going to be able to do some things. I went on with Dexter Henry on the New York Post show earlier today with CP, and I already made my pick. So I'm not, I said Celtics in 6, and I am very much looking forward to being wrong about that. And I'm curious where you land. You could give your prediction at the end of the show, but I guess the last thing before we get to our questions, I wonder if most Knicks fans are where I'm at, or if there is more optimism out there, or maybe more pessimism. I guess I don't know than what I'm displaying right now. Do you have any sense of that, or care to comment either way?
I'll save it for later. Might as well.
Okay.
Bury the lead. Keep the people watching.
Do you want to
because I know that's the only reason they're waiting is just to see what my prediction is, my non-analytics prediction.
Do you think there are a lot of Knicks fans out there who think they could, who are like going into the series, be like, yeah, man, we could do this. Absolutely.
Of course. Okay. It's tribalism. It's fandom. It's why not us? It's that whole mentality, which I completely respect and love. So yeah, of course. Yes, it's you can look at what's happened in the regular season. It's not the regular season anymore. It's a brand new season right now, and it's the best of 7. And the Knicks still have extreme talent on the roster. They just have to find the best way to optimize it. They've gotten closer each time, or at least it's hard not to have, right? That first game against Boston, it felt like it can only go up from here. And the last game, it came down to overtime. So there are moments where it feels like it can be. I'm trying to remember the second and third game, if it was quite that linear. Either way, if you talk about the first game and the last game, I think it wasn't quite that linear. But
the second game was an ass kicking, maybe not to the degree of opening night, but it was an ass kicking. And then game 3 is the one where they fell behind by 20 something points and then got it to within like 3 or 4.
Respectful, yes, and it was close in the third quarter of the second game, and Jason Tatum just went off.
That sounds right. Yeah.
And a huge part of that, of course, we'll get into a little bit more of the season prediction. But no, it doesn't surprise me at all that Knicks fans are Knicks fans. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all. It means I love the fact that they're passionate about their team, our team. Let them keep doing it. Let us keep doing it.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're just as passionate. I don't know. The logic of this series is getting to me. Not getting to me, but it's just like it's unavoidable to me. It's like it's like oxygen. It's all around me, and I can't pretend it's not there. So okay, enough filibustering. Do you want to ask your first question?
Sure. First question I do is, how are these teams taking care of the ball? First one. I talked a little bit about this with Cade, but here's where I think it's relevant. So Boston is 24th in defensive turnover percentage this past season, or at least they have been. They've been 13th in the playoffs so far. They're 25th in points off of turnovers per game and 8th in the playoffs. The Knicks, meanwhile, on the offensive side, are 9th in turnover percentage and 2nd in turnover percentage on defense. So they've done a really nice job of forcing turnovers defensively and trying to create those opportunities. In the playoffs, the Knicks are 3rd in transition frequency. But the problem is that in that Pistons series, they were 16th in points added per 100 possessions. So it's just terrible not being able to capitalize. The Celtics,
and they were great in the regular season in that stat. Yeah,
exactly. So the Celtics are 4th in defensive frequency and 7th in allowing points added per 100 possession. That's just the playoffs. But then in the regular season, so the Knicks are actually in frequency on the offensive side of the ball. They were 23rd in the frequency, but 11th in converting, while the Celtics were 30th in offensive transition frequency and 24th in points added per possession. So it's going to be fascinating to see as well, because as you were hinting in the regular season as well, last thing here, the Knicks were 6th in defensive transition frequency and 7th in allowing points added per 100 possessions. But they got obliterated, as we just talked about, by the Pistons. And in the regular season, the Celtics were 5th in defensive transition frequency and 1st in allowing points added per 100 possession. A lot of stats being thrown. Point being here is that the Celtics take very good care of the ball, and the Knicks do a very good job of creating turnovers. So it will probably be, can the Knicks create more turnovers and then capitalize and pushing the frequency and also converting? Or will the Celtics continue taking care of the ball on the offensive side? Because we know that the Celtics in the half court were one of the best. I think they were 3rd in the NBA in points per possession. So it's really going to be up to the Knicks to try to force those turnovers and then capitalize on them. But the problem is Boston does a great job, especially picking on Cat. Cat's going to see a lot of time here. So how are the Knicks scheming defensively with Boston in the half court, finding ways to forcing turnovers without forcing themselves out of position, leading to open threes? Because the Magic did a nice job of limiting the Celtics in terms of their frequency at the three. And the Knicks and the Magic are not that dissimilar from the numbers of, at least in the regular season, of frequency defensively and accuracy allowed. The Magic were more stringent in terms of threes allowed with the frequency, but the Knicks did a slightly better job, and still not a good job, of the threes going in on the defensive end. So hopefully it's a blueprint, but if the Knicks can create more turnovers, I think that would certainly, I mean, it seems obvious, get the ball more, have more opportunities to score. But the Celtics have been great at holding on to it. And if the Knicks can find ways to capitalize and take the ball from the Celtics, run in transition, and actually score, they have a better chance.
It's funny. Our first questions have nothing to do with one another on their face, and yet they have everything to do with one another. Which
you tell.
While the Knicks have been better at creating turnovers this year, a Tom Thibodeau defense just does not hunt turnovers. And even in the Pistons first round series against the Pistons, I don't eat for as many turnovers as they generated. I don't feel like the Knicks ever hunted turnovers. I felt like they were very opportunistic, and they took advantage of some tendencies that were season-long tendencies from the Pistons, who turned the ball over a lot, and they were just ready to pounce. And yeah, there were a couple instances, obviously, where OG Anunoby goes just like God mode or demon mode, I guess, is the proper nickname. And he creates a turnover all by himself. But again, by and large, like, this is not the Oklahoma City Thunder defense we're talking about. So what you are essentially asking is, how much will the Knicks go outside of maybe not their comfort zone, but like deviate from their normal game plan in order to try to solve a very specific problem, which is that our defense is not great in the half court against this team. So let's limit their half court possessions and try to turn those into offensive possessions for us, because that gives us the best chance to win. That may be the best thing for us in this series. My first question, again, on its face, not similar, but will the Knicks hunt threes? The Knicks did not hunt threes at all this season. They finished the year, I think, third from the bottom of the league in terms of frequency of threes taken. If you start the clock at like January 1st, they were second from the bottom in terms of frequency of threes taken. They were eminently comfortable taking whatever defenses gave them. And if defenses took away the three, they're like, fine, we'll score inside the arc. And sometimes, even when defenses gave them the three, they're like, you know what? We don't want them. Well, we'd rather take it inside the arc and make life harder for ourselves. There is a perception, and I don't know whether it is definitively right or not, that in order to beat the Celtics, you have to, you were not going to be able to win the math game, but at least be in the math game, not get blown out in the math game. Like the Celtics take 8,000 threes and then, Knicks are going to take like 17. No, like you need to be kind of in it to win it, which, by the way, they were at least closer in that last game. So again, logic would dictate that the Knicks need to shoot more threes in order to win this series. But in order to shoot more threes, as Fred Katz said on the pod the other day, it's not about shooting threes, it's about generating threes. The Knicks offense does not generate threes. Are they going to try to do something differently to generate threes in this series to make the math more advantageous for them? And I just don't know. I'm very curious about it. So that is why that is my first question.
So I will flip my second and first, because the one I had going first has so much to do with what you just talked about. Okay. Which is essentially, yes, how will the Knicks be generating threes? If you look at the frequency game by game of the 4 games that the Knicks and the Celtics played each other, the Knicks, just frequency from 3, were in the 40th percentile. The Celtics, the 100th percentile, which makes sense. They nearly broke a record that game. They were 1-3 away. Game 2, the Knicks were in the 3rd percentile. Celtics were in the 75th percentile. Game 3, 32nd percentile, 82nd percentile for the Celtics. And the final game, 31st percentile versus the 97th percentile. So yes, are the Knicks going to change up their strategy, which they have not done at any point since January or whenever after it was after the 9-game winning streak. I believe it was against the Jazz. It was the final game. It feels like a little bit beforehand it wasn't working, but that was especially a clear indication of things going wrong. But then it's the mid-range frequency. So the Knicks in game 1, 92nd percentile in mid-range frequency. Celtics 15th. Game 2, 82nd percentile mid-range. Celtics 21st. Game 3, 81st percentile for the Knicks, 36th percentile for the Celtics. And finally, game 4, 71st percentile for the Knicks, 21st percentile for the Celtics. And at a certain point, it feels like it's a numbers game. Like you're talking about one team is generating, to use Fred's word, generating all of these incredible opportunities and so many mismatches. And it's not just spotting up, it's finding the exact way to go about it. And the looks that they are generating, they're phenomenal. And the Knicks are basically just saying, we're going to take this pull up mid-range and we're fine with it because we know that it works. We're going to score and we need those points. But at a certain point, if the other team just keeps spamming you with threes and they're good threes and you're inherently playing the back end of a numbers game where you are just shooting twos, or at least you're focusing on twos, the gap is going to continue widening. And that's a real challenge. I mean, it's to be 27th in the regular season in offensive 3-point frequency. Like that's, again, and I know you just mentioned it, but like the idea that the Knicks are going to say, hey, that thing that we've been doing for a while, let's go back to what was happening beforehand, because I just can't see that happening. I don't see them reverting back to what was working, because they would have done it already. Well, and they haven't.
So obviously, like everybody else, I wish they took more threes. I wish they generated more threes. And I think for me, far more than any of the other reasons currently being bandied about for why the Knicks maybe should possibly look at a different head coach in the summer. Number one, again, with a chasm between this and everything else, is just an offense that has more, I don't want to say more structure to it, but like, it's not just go out there and listen to what the game tells you to do and do what the game tells you to do. It's no, we're going to go out there and we're going to try to accomplish XYZ, and here's how we're going to accomplish XYZ. Which again is a lot easier said than done. And like the notion that there is some coach that's going to, like Kenny Atkinson, if he came in here tomorrow, like, oh, all of a sudden the Knicks are going to be able to, score 125 points per 100 possessions. No, it's like everything comes with pitfalls, and there's reasons that all of this stuff happens the way it does. That said, that's how I feel. With that being said, I think there's a world where the Knicks could score enough points in this series to win it without necessarily deviating too much from their general offensive philosophy. Mm-hmm. But as I say that, like, as long as they cut out the periods of, like, I don't know, 15, 20, 25 minutes of utter nonsense that seem to plague every game of the Pistons series, cut that stuff out. And you know what? That it's all factored in. It's part of the problem. So anyway, the bigger thing for me is, are you doing anything to limit the Celtics from shooting a ton of threes? Because again, if you're talking about playing the math game, there's two sides to it. Like, yeah, you could come up, but you could also get the Celtics to come down. And that is more interesting to me, because that has to do with just like, are you basically going to switch more on defense, which is not one of my three questions I'm asking here. But it is something I'm wondering. My second question is going to sound a little silly, but here it goes. Will the Knicks dare Jason Tatum to beat them? And I am stealing liberally, but it's okay, because I'm going to give him credit right now. DJ Zulo earlier today tweeted out that Jason Tatum versus the Knicks this season, 20 for 38 on pull-up threes, which, if you're not a math whiz, that's a better than 50% number. Overall on pull-up threes, I don't know if you saw the tweet, but if you didn't, do you want to guess what he shot overall on pull-up threes this year?
It was like 33%.
It was exactly 30.
Yeah, 33.3%. I did see the tweet. Yes.
So a 33% pull-up three-point shooter is not someone that should cause a 5-alarm fire if they are preparing to pull up, which is translation for not saying you go under the screen every time. And I'm not even saying that going under the screen is going to like be the thing that solves the that defensive possession, because as Jason Tatum has shown many times this year, he could beat the Knicks in a lot of ways, and he could just like he'd beat anyone in a lot of ways. But is there part of New York's defensive game plan, given how many ways Karl-Anthony Towns and like I have a cat question coming up, which is related to this. Given how many different ways Cat can like be not great on the defensive end, this would like kind of be one way to mitigate that. By just like going under more, again, daring Tatum. All right, you hit all your pull-up threes against us in the regular season. Let's see if you could do it again in the postseason. I don't expect this, but I am curious about it because the math is the math. And if it's one thing we know about Tom Thibodeau, he will trust that the numbers will eventually come back to the mean if you play it out over a long enough sample size. Now is another, the Knicks could get swept in 4 games. And is that much of a sample size? No. So I don't know, but I wouldn't be shocked if they lean into this to some extent.
Agreed, especially considering OG did a very nice job on Tatum. I distinctly remember us being at the watch party for that second game and questioning why OG wasn't playing more on Tatum, why they were switching to Bridges and then Bridges getting torched. And Bridges, of course, has done a better job defensively in the playoffs. And maybe he's just one of those playoff risers who can just simply excel on the defensive end. So that would be the hope, of course. But I hear you entirely, which is make Jason Tatum beat you. Like force him to be the guy have him take that pull-up shot.
In that specific way.
Yeah. Yes. And I can understand also from the Celtics perspective, like, okay, cool, he'll do it. And from what we've seen with how he's handled the Knicks, it's like, yeah, he probably will. He probably will be able to do it. But yes, limiting their best player, it's a smart move. It just has to be. Force him to be uncomfortable.
Let me say, sorry, one last thing. There's pull-up threes and there's pull-up threes. And I think part of the issue with the Knicks coverage of Jason Tatum throughout this year is he has not felt any heat. There's a difference between not feeling any heat and like, oh, they're giving me this shot, but like someone's like feeling some sort of pressure coming around the corner. And so when I pose this question, I don't mean to suggest that they treat him like the Celtics are going to treat Josh Hart. No. I'm just talking about like skewing a little bit more towards the other way. I just want to make that very clear.
Totally agree. No, it makes complete sense. He's still an elite shot maker. But if you're going to try to force him into something where he's not at his best, he's very good against the Knicks. But generally speaking, that's not the thing that is his bread and butter. Try to make him keep doing that. And it's a numbers game. Yep. So I'm with you. The one other thing I wanted to say just about the 3-point shooting, especially on the Knicks side, I would hate for the conclusion for someone listening to this to be me saying, hey, if the Knicks generate more threes, everything's fine. Because that is, and I know you know that I'm not saying this, but it is
I know you're not.
It is not the solve. I just want to be abundantly
solve a lot if they
it would solve a whole hell of a lot.
They're a good 3-point shooting team.
There are, especially when you consider that in the last series, OG Levy shot 23% on 3.7 threes attempted per game. It's 22.7%. Bridges shot 31.3% on 2.7 3-pointers attempted from the corner. This is just from the corner.
A Pistons series?
Yeah. From the corner specifically. OG.
Oh, you're talking about just from the corners. Oh, okay.
Just from the corner. Right. OG and Bridges shot very poorly from the corners, and Deuce did as well. So the hope from the Knicks side would be positive regression. I doubt that they leave these guys open. If anything, it would be how open is Josh Hart going to be, and where's Kristaps Porzingis going to be? I just wanted to make that abundantly clear before moving on to the next point, which is it's really going to be which bench will shine the brightest. And to me, it doesn't even feel like it's a conversation because the Celtics bench is far better than what the Knicks have offered. But it's not even against, I shouldn't even set it up as which bench will shine the brightest because it's already like kind of answering it's Celtics. It's what can the Knicks bench do in order to mitigate the gap that's there. So
That's it.
the Celtics, for example, just some fun facts to throw your way. Of the 9 5-man units to play at least 100 possessions in the season for Boston, all but one of them finished above +7 on a differential in points per possession. Do you know what the worst one was of those 7?
Which one?
I'm sorry, of those 9. It was their starting line. The Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum, Porzingis finished in the 39th percentile, and it had a difference of, which is crazy, 0.0. That was the difference between the offense and defense. If you remove the 9th most played because it has Neemias Queta, who's not going to see time, and you factor in the 2 possessions, or the 2 lineups directly below it, which were 99 possessions and 97 possessions, just missed. The White, Brown, Tatum, Horford, Cornette, 99 possessions plus 20.3. White, Brown, Tatum, Hauser, Horford, 97 possessions plus 34.2. All of the lineups of the ones that I've mentioned, they have their defenses in the 68th percentile or higher, except for that main starting lineup. But so then when we talk about the bench and the depth that's there, the Celtics have the 6th man of the year winner in Peyton Pritchard. Pritchard hit 9 threes in 5 games. Cameron Payne hit 3 threes in 6 games. Deuce McBride hit 5 threes in 6 games. Landry Shamet attempted 0 threes, essentially because he was entirely a DNP in those 6 games. So
he played the first 2. That's it, really.
Right. 5 of the 6. Yeah. But even still, he was not out there long. Point being, you add up the Knicks bench, that is fewer threes made in one more game than Peyton Pritchard by himself. So the threes that they're generating on the Celtics side and the shot makers and creators to do it, it's a bit of a problem. The Knicks this season had 14 lineups with at least 100 possessions. 7 of those 14 feature a player who will either not be in the rotation, Precious Achiuwa or DeLon Wright, or someone who was traded, in this case, Jericho Sims. Of those 7 active lineups, the 2 most played are the starting lineup, which is plus 4.1. It's 51st percentile in about 1,900 possessions. And the starting lineup, but Deuce for Brunson, plus 4.7. It's 52nd percentile in 361 possessions. The starting lineup has played 6 times more than the next most used lineup among rotation players. But the other lineups that we have out there, which feature some non-starting lineup players, they're all 14.3 differential or higher. With 4 of them being above 20, 2 being above 30, and 1 being above 40. And all 5 of those lineups have 201 possessions of non-garbage time or fewer, which of course leads us back to, it feels like the Knicks consistently played with what they knew did or didn't work for them and didn't try to get creative, or at least they were creative with players who aren't going to even really be significant contributors. And I know a lot of this might not feature Mitchell Robinson due to injury, but the Knicks have played 49.3% of their non-garbage time possessions with all their starters on the floor. And it felt to me like, okay, your shots are falling short, might be fatigue. If that's the case, it's because you're not fresh. And I would be surprised if we see a lot of good Cameron Payne in this series, because I don't anticipate the Knicks playing Brunson and Payne together quite like they did in game 1 of the last series. And I think based on the height and the defensive intelligence of the Celtics, how good they are at finding weaknesses, that Payne won't see a ton of time. Shamet, I gather he will, based on, if he's not playing a ton in the first series, I don't think he's going to see a ton of time in the second, maybe a little bit, but I think he's going to get schemed out defensively. And then the last is Deuce McBride. And I want to talk about Deuce because I think also the way that Deuce has been talked about, there's one thing that has kind of frustrated me as a fan, which is, and you know me, I'm the math, the salary guy. But when Deuce plays well, I have noticed it's look at how much he is outproducing $4 million. And hey, that's great. I totally agree with that. But when he plays poorly, it's, well, what do you expect from the guy who's making $4 million? And I just feel like in those moments, we can't have our cake and eat it too. We can say that Deuce McBride is a really good player who buoys the bench in the best ways when he's on. But when he's falling short, chalking it up to, well, he's only making that much. So what do you really expect? It rings hollow to me. It doesn't feel right. And Deuce has not been contributing in a way that the Knicks need him to do that. Since coming back from injury on January 10th, he finished the regular season.
Not January 10th, probably March 10th,
No.
right?
January 10th. I'm going all the way back to January 10th.
Okay, got it.
He came back January 10th, and from then on to the end of the regular season, he finished with 25 minutes per game, 9.4 points per game, on slashing 39.3, 34.4, 82.8 shooting, which would also be a true shooting percentage of 50.6%. This is already a shorter guard who doesn't finish well at the rim. In the series against Detroit, much smaller sample size, of course. Yeah. But in that series, he averaged 16 minutes per game, 3.8 points per game, slashed 26.7, 26.3, 50, 204 from the line, while shooting true percentage with a true shooting percentage of 36.2%. The Knicks ranked dead last in the NBA in the regular season in bench points. And so again, as we talked about, it's not even which bench will win. It's, can this bench make it even remotely close against the Sixth Man of the Year award winner? Because right now they're relying so heavily on a starting lineup. And going back to our conversation where it was like, still don't know what to make of this team. It's because that starting lineup still hasn't figured it out. And when you're, when the, what is it? Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. When your mitochondria here is the starting lineup and it's still not powering through in all the right ways, and you feel like you haven't found the solve internally, and you're just running it out because Tibbs is basically saying, I don't trust the bench players, so I'm just going to keep sticking with what works, and then they get tired or they're not generating shots. And to your point earlier, when you were talking about generating threes, it's when Brunson and Cat, then what was it, the pick and pop that they had, that opportunity. And what does Cat do? He finds OG in the corner, and OG is a great corner shooter, but not in this series. And perhaps because it's either or both, the Knicks not wanting to settle for a corner three and instead try to get a high leverage two with him cutting, or him not feeling comfortable enough to shooting the ball with him struggling from beyond the arc. Something is amiss. So without the bench to assist the Knicks in a way where it always feels like the Celtics are cohesive, it feels like they are deeper at every moment of their lineup. And I just, with a bench that's just not been producing, with a Knicks team that's just gone through a pretty tough 6-game series, how are you taking into consideration fatigue? How are you getting a player to replenish someone who's ahead of him? It's going to be tough. And the only player that I feel is reliable from the bench right now is Mitchell Robinson. And if you're asking him to do anything on offense, you're looking at the wrong guy. That's not what he does best.
I'm happy you talked about the bench as much as you did, because to me, it is the second biggest story of the series. The Tibbs era, if you look at all the teams from the Tibbs era, they don't have much in common. Something that they all do have in common is the bench has, without question, exceeded expectations. Go all the way back to Derrick Rose, Emmanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin, Taj Gibson, and then obviously the Kemba year, the bench was all anybody ever wanted to see for good reason. And then you go, onwards from there. Like they always have guys that come off the bench and produce in big spots. And this year was that was the case again. Campaign. How many times have we talked about the value of that contract? How many times do we talk about how all the best lineups have Deuce in them? And he's a member of so many of their best net rating lineups. You just mentioned it a minute ago. So the fact that the bench has fallen off so much, and like we're looking at it in this way, is just it's a big difference. And I think it'll be a big factor in this series. I'm not going to belabor my last question because I've talked about it a lot, and I have a feeling we're going to be talking about it a lot more. I phrased it in this way, which is that will Cat be treated with kid gloves? And this is more focused on the defense than the offense, but it could apply to the offense as well. Like, on defense, like, trying to build your entire defense to mitigate the very obvious and very painful weaknesses of one prominent player, I have to think that that's like not the best feeling thing in the world if you're a teammate of said player. Now, to be very clear, I think everybody in the locker room adores Cat. I adore Cat. But his defense got like troublingly worse over the course of the Pistons series, to the point that like I don't know how much sitting here right now I trust him to like switch onto Jason Tatum or effectively be aggressive at the level. And he has played a ton of drop this year, even though it has been a painful watching experience. But that to me has been a result of treating Karl-Anthony Towns with kid gloves. They ain't going to win this series if they treat him with kids' gloves in that way and say, here, go play drop, because guess what? Celtics are going to figure out, like, even though on paper you could make the argument that, like, no, it's 2-on-2 in the middle and then everybody stays home on the outside. Like, you could make the argument, like, yeah, that's the best way to handle the Celtics. It's not. It's not going to be good enough. It's not going to win. So is he challenged there? And then on offense, like, yeah, Jalen Brunson can create advantages. We know Jalen Brunson can create advantages. Karl-Anthony Towns could create advantages too, whether they're for himself or for his teammates. And it is going to require him going down there in the paint and doing the dirty work and like busting his ass and doing it over the course of like not one, not two, not, I feel like LeBron James, like however many games there are. Like, if you're out there, man, you got to put pressure on whichever little Celtic is guarding you until they make the switch to having the big Celtic guard you, and then you could cause trouble in other ways. This is a Karl-Anthony Towns series more than it's anybody else's series, and I think he could win them this series. I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that Karl-Anthony Towns could win the Knicks this series, and all he has to do is tap into all of his best qualities, not go crazy in ways that he has not been good before. Just go be close to your best in all the different areas of your game. And that's all that is required. And I want to see if he is challenged to do it and if he comes through. That's my last question.
It's a great one. He's an all-NBA player, and the question is he going to perform like one? Yeah. And when you look at how the Celtics have prevented him from getting comfortable in those games, they need him. They need him desperately. The Celtics team is too good. They are the favorites, or at least they should be considered maybe the favorites to win the NBA title. When you're going up against that, yeah, you got to be the best version of yourself. And if the Celtics can just obliterate you on the offensive side and make you helpless defensively and play you off the court, it's not good. Not good at all. So I'm with you.
Less than ideal. Okay. I think we've covered pretty much all the bases. Anything else before we get out of here, Jeremy?
Let's give my prediction.
Oh, yeah. Your prediction,
sure. Back in February, now 3 months ago, we had our trade deadline reaction pod. And one of the first things I said, if memory serves, is this team to me still feels like a second round exit. It just doesn't have, it has not instilled the level of confidence that I would need in order to feel like they can get past the Celtics, considering where the Cavs and the Celtics were in the standings and the fact that the Knicks had a pretty cushy lead over 4, 5, and 6. Since then, it hasn't grown, the confidence. I do not feel better. I wouldn't say I feel worse. I would just feel like it is an unresolved question of can this team, or unresolved answer in that case of is this team capable? And sure, they're capable. Absolutely. Do I feel confident about it? No, I don't. I just don't. Maybe if they had really treated Detroit differently than they did, I'd have felt a little bit better. I'd have felt more optimism, but I just don't. And it could be because I am just so accustomed to Boston winning, to Boston beating New York, and having gone to school in Massachusetts for college. Like it's just I fear them constantly.
It's a big rivalry for you.
It is often for Boston sports where, because of how successful Boston sports can be, that their losing can feel better than my winning, but my teams aren't winning. So that's all that I really have, which is sad. And I will be the first to acknowledge that, hence what I just said. So it pains me to even talk about the idea of a Boston team excelling, but here we are. And I see this being Celtics in 5. And there is a portion of me that's like, how, if I were on the outside looking in, like, yes, this is still a good Knicks team that won 51 games. But if I were on the outside looking in, would I give the Knicks that extra game? Like, what is it where are they winning that game? Could they go into TD Garden and surprise Boston? Of course they could. Absolutely. But why does it have this sinking feeling of Miami Heat series of you're down 3-0 and then you win game 4 at home, and then you've got another game 5, and then that's the season. And that's just how the emotions of it for me are. I'd love for this team to, of course, keep playing basketball. I don't want to get into off-season content yet. I'd love to be able to cram all of the off-season content that is needed in like a week and be like, hey, you all right? New day, new cap or no cap, new episode of Cream, whatever it would be. But in my heart of hearts and everything I look at with the stats, with the film, Boston feels like a better, more well-rounded, more tested team. And if the Knicks can go in there and do their job and win the series, then I will be floored, and all the best ways. And it's not even I'm saying this because if they win, I can feel nothing but joy. It's not that. I truly believe that the Celtics are a much better team. And it's not to say the Knicks have no chance, but that's how much I believe in the Celtics as a juggernaut. It's really all it is.
Here's the reality. If the Celtics play, I don't want to say like a 10 out of 10, but if they play roughly to their capabilities, they're not going to lose. And even if they don't play up to their capabilities, there is still a world where they win, because the Knicks have not shown us that they could play up to their capabilities over a sustained period of time against quality opponent. And because of those two things together, I think either Knicks in 6, or either Celtics in 6 or Celtics in 5 are the two most reasonable predictions. That said, a 7-game series would not shock me. And I'm like, maybe this is just the irrational fan in me that like wants to believe in what we've seen this team do for a couple of years now, which is like, we will expend all of our 9 lives, and I think that for as frustrating as that has been, this team has been, I think that is still in there, and it is definitely in there. We saw it in the Detroit series. If that wasn't in there, shit, they might have lost to Detroit 5 games or 6. It's in there. It is in there, but that can only get you so far, and they just need to do a lot of things well to be in the series. So I'm not pushing back on anything you said. I wish I could.
And for me, it's hoping that Tibbs essentially kept his cards close to his vest for the entire regular season, and then said, reverse or wild card and
Yahtzee.
Right. And then everything changes. And I don't have that level of confidence.
I don't. I mean, I love the man, but I don't either. Okay. It's good. I hope everybody enjoyed this very optimistic outlook. Andrew, anything before we get out of here? I don't know if Andrew's there. I just called out to someone who's not even there. That's fantastic.
Well, we have a watch party.
We do have a watch party. Oh, Andrew doesn't have a mic. We have a watch party. Yeah. Everybody should go to it.
Floor is all yours, Andrew. Andrew, tell them what they've won.
I'll take door number 3.
Game 1. We have a watch party.
Game 1 is the watch party. T squared social. Be there or be T squared. You know the deal. 42nd Street. Come about an hour before game time. That's when we'll start filing in. It's gonna be a great time. And if they actually win, it's going to be freaking pandemonium, and you'll be very happy that you're at a bar with a whole bunch of Knicks fans. Okay, that is it. Thank you, Jeremy Cohen. Thank you, GMAC. And I don't know, should I thank the Indiana Pacers for beating the Cavs in Game 1 to make that all instantly an extraordinarily interesting series? Maybe. I don't know.
I will say, there was a Caitlin Cooper tweet a few months ago about how the Pacers and the Cavs matched up really well on the Pacers side. And ever since then, I've been like, if they meet, I'm going Pacers in 6. And then I understand that they're missing Garland, but I'm feeling disgustingly good about that because I don't really want the Pacers to advance. But
good job by you.
Well, the series ain't over. It's not done.
No, it's not. It's not. I think it's the series will go 7. And most of all, thank you, Fanatics Sportsbook, our presenting sponsor. We love Fanatics Sportsbook. It's been very fun getting the betting and sweating back up in a big way and doing those shows and making those picks and everything. I am fully addicted to the Fanatics Sportsbook app at this point. I love making my little $10 wager before every game. It's all I need. It's all I need to keep me happy. It's not much,
simple things.
It is the simple things of life. I unfortunately, I got some fan cash back for it, so it was fine. I was happy, but I managed to miss on, I think, 2 of my 3 legs of my parlay. I had Kawhi over 24 points, Jokic over 24 points, and Jokic over 10 rebounds for Game 7, and both Kawhi and Jokic did not hit their points. So that was a little disappointing. But you live and learn for next time. Okay. That's enough from us. Everybody, enjoy your week. Let's go Knicks, and we'll be back with more fun and games very soon. Peace out.